What's up, everyone? Thralls of Metal back again. I am Shredlord, aka Turd Ferguson.
Necrotic Nick, aka Necrotic Nick.
And we are here to bring you another excellent album review. This time, we are going back to our childhood. Well, it was my early childhood. Early. Your early, my double early. We're going back to a 90s vibe here with some classic death metal from the band Gutless. High Impact Violence.
This also comes out on the 22nd of November on Misako Un Ojo Records.
Ohayou gozaimasu.
This band formed in 2018 in Australia, though we definitely said classic. Trust me, their sound is very familiar if you've been listening to death metal from like 1990 on. This is their debut full length. I actually got in this band with their 2018 demo, Mass Extinction. I want to say I ordered it in one of the many distros that I like to lurk in, and it was pretty much just sold to me as just fiercely old school death metal, and generally that's enough. And that is very accurate. A lot of this stuff is very much rooted in 90s death metal, both Floridian death metal and kind of just, again, like 90s death metal in general.
If you even like to whiff the hairs of death metal, you're absolutely going to like this. This was, I'm just going to say right off the bat, this was an enjoyable listen. Very much so.
A lot of this, again, very much rooted in 90s death metal. I mean, right away, the opening track, Bashed and Hemorrhaging, and yeah, the song titles in here are fun. Right away, stomps in, you get some cymbal grabs, very thrashy riffs, and as soon as the vocals came in, I was like, man, I feel like I'm listening to a lost Deicide song from like 1992. Right down to the production, too. The production kind of has that old school Scott Burns sound where it still sounds a little murky, very organic, but well separated. The guitars stand out really well. The drums are absolutely pummeling on here. And the vocals cut through the mix in fine fashion with their rapid fire kind of just barked cadences. Everything on this album is just aggressive and steeped in 90s death metal lore.
And while this album lives in a certain area of the metal timeline, it's definitely not stale. It's very creative in what it does. They do a great job of, first of all, coming up with great traditional style death metal riffs. And then what they do to keep it interesting is it doesn't feel so copy and paste. They add certain changes. They add a lot of tempo changes, part changes. They did a really good job pacing and writing these songs to keep them interesting and intense pretty much the entire way through, even though they're only about maybe 4 minutes is like a really long song on this album. Usually they're all been about three and a half. But they were very intense and interesting the entire time.
They pack a lot of dynamics. And granted, like a lot of the dynamics they use are kind of tropes of death metal anyway. Like kind of across board. Cymbal grabs, breakdowns, big syncopated grooves, heavy tremolo harmonies, relentless chugging. The chugging on here, I mean, yeah, I don't need Jammin' John here to tell you how much I love chugging, too. He would already be gushing.
The guitar players definitely arc their ropes at Terrence Hobbs' right hand because there's a lot of suffocation chugs.
Oh, yeah.
Bad boy.
Avalanche of Viscera, Viral Infection in particular. You get those giant, just harmonized triplet chugs that you would hear on like any Suffocation album, just because it's a very Terrence-esque thing. And even the drum work too. The drum work is very aggressive. While there aren't like tons of flashy fills in there, there's a good amount of like off-time rhythms and like clever grooves too. Like of course you get your double time grooves and just like big stupid slammy grooves. The end of Gorgut in particular, that is the most caveman riff on this album. Like that riff is dumb as shit and awesome. Like it doesn't even know how to read, and we're not gonna knock it for it. Mostly because that riff would kick the shit out of us. Viral Infection, there's a moment on there where the syncopated groove on there kind of almost turns into like, it's almost like a death metal version of a salsa rhythm. Like there's this kind of like swing to it. Like, it's this kind of like interesting, almost booty shaking groove, but it's done with like heavy double bass and relentless chugging. It was a little bit different than what they were doing on there. I was like, dude, that's just kind of clever.
Yeah, they can go from backing that booty up and dropping it like it's hot to even in a track like Carved Into Existence. There's a part where it almost sounds like a little bit of a ballroom swing, and there's a lot of little things like that take your standard death metal riff, but just put it over the top as far as interesting goes.
Yeah, and a lot of that can be found in like transitions on here. Like there's some really clever ones with some samples. Like I believe they sampled both Frighteners and Videodrome on here. I might be off on the Frighteners one, but I'm reasonably sure it was. But there's also like some fun transitions into like breakdown riffs and grooves. One of my favorite tropes about like more brutal death metal is isolating that riff, just kind of dropping out everything except for that riff, just chugging it out, like letting people know, like, yeah, shit is about to just get nuts here. Carved into existence. Around the end of that song, it gets this big dropout and they get this like muffled drum and guitar sort of riff, like, okay, I know what's coming. And as soon as it kind of builds into this huge stomping, I would say almost a slam breakdown, it is just this absolutely punishing, like dying fetus style groove. And it's interesting because that sort of element doesn't show up earlier in the album. The first half of this album, I feel, is really latched onto that old school thrashy vibe. Like, I got tons of like Deicide, Monstrosity, early Cannibal Corpse, or, a more recent band, Hyperdontia, which, absolutely adores like 90s death metal. But as this album went on, I feel like it got a little bit more brutal, and the transitions I thought got like a little bit more clever.
The riffs can go from black metal tremolo picking that would make a Euronymous give a decrepit thumbs up from the grave, or it can go to a Deicide type thing where you hear Glenn Benton talking shit in the background calling him a Toys R Us vampire. It's all over the place. The dynamics in this are great. They don't just stick with one style. They throw in so many different styles, and then once again on top of it, try to change with the groove a little bit. Give it a little salsa, maybe give it a little this, a little bit of that, just enough to keep it interesting. It's not changing the vibe of it, but it's just doing enough to make it interesting to the ear and go, oh, what is that? And honestly, if anything, a lot of these songs could have kept going.
Yes. There is like one issue with this being it is only 26 minutes. Like I've definitely gone over EPs that are longer, but I feel like the songs are good about being densely packed with riff changes and dynamics. Like Galvanized, well, I do think that song is just a little bit too short, and it's mainly because the riffs in it are so good. The alternating like thrashy chugs to death metal tremolos, the driving groove of that song, the fun vocals, like everything about that song is absolutely awesome. You even get like some more like slammy dying fetus grooves in there too. But I feel like it could have carried on longer. Like they could have done like a long fade out on just a particular riff. Like, 'cause, I mean, all the riffs in that song are awesome. You could have faded out on any one of those.
Another thing I could have used a little bit more of too are the solos. Everything's done with taste, but sometimes I wanted more. A track like Viral Infection, which is the closing track of this album, I thought had some of the strongest leads on the whole album. The guitar player, whoever's doing the leads, he's very good. He's good at the execution. His note choices were good. The leads sounded like they fit the song. Sometimes they were short and chaotic. Other times they were a little bit more... well, in the guitar world, you'd call like diminished or harmonic minor, give it that Egyptian or evil kind of sound. It has those vibes, or at other times, it's just as simple as, dialing up your Kerry King dive bombs, man, and just doing whatever's appropriate.
Those were effective.
Yeah, the leads were good in this album, but once again, if anything, maybe add some more leads or just extend some of them because they were really well done. However, I wonder... if they did take some of those approaches right and carry on, would we be saying like, oh man, they should have cut it quicker or something? Who knows? That's the weird thing about reviewing shit. But
I mean, the honest thing is, though, like the entire album's enjoyable.
Yes.
All 26 minutes of it are awesome. Every song is densely packed with just really good just riff work. It's not overtly technical, I would say, but it's clever in terms of like transitions. It gets a little bit flashy at times, but it knows what it's about. It's about delivering heavy riffs and energetic songs. And even when it comes down to like the injection of melody in some of the songs, I wouldn't call any of these songs like overly melodic. When it comes down to like harmonizing a riff, it's not there to really like contribute like, like a nice catchy melody.
It's not there melodically.
It's thickening up the riff. It's making it like heftier. A lot of the tremolo harmonies, as soon as that second guitar comes in to harmonize it, it's making it more sinister and making it sound more evil. And this band likes to alternate between sounding like just evil and murky to just, again, flat out like blunt force trauma riffing. Like they are there to chug your face off. And if anything, all this is, again, like very familiar. Like, again, if you've been listening to death metal for almost any number of years, a lot of these tropes are very familiar, but again, it's kind of in how they're arranged. The songs are arranged really well. And I think in terms of like, maybe an idea behind this was like, let's never lose momentum, because I can't think of a moment on here that it dragged.
No, the gas is full to the floor, and it made it for a really enjoyable listen. Not that it was all one speed, but the intensity, whether they went slow, fast, stomping, slamming, whatever, it always kept your interest.
And as much as the riffs really kind of propel this, I think the drum work on here, while it's not super flashy, it is very energetic. Like lots of different blast types, like you get that full extension blast from Suffocation. You get a lot of like galloped blasts that honestly kind of sound a little bit more like Death Thrash, like Demolition Hammer or like early Sepultura. Everything on this album is driven. And again, like honestly, the only knock I could really make on it is, yeah, maybe it is like kind of derivative, but it's derivative of shit I like and shit that I have liked for years, and honestly shit that kind of defines what I like now a lot. Like if I hear these elements pop up in songs like they do here, I'm gonna like it, even though it reminds me a lot of like older bands. And the other thing is, yeah, no, it's a little short for a full length, but I can't say there's any filler on here. Even the atmospheric moments that pop up, they're a brief quote and then off to the races. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I dig this debut. This is pretty much all killer, no filler. Little maybe stripped down, like, you know, there might have been like a little bit of meat that got trimmed off with the fat here. But overall, I just dig it. Like lots of big deicide vibes, lots of Floridian death metal, and then additional like brutality, like, you know, that more kind of like brutal death metal / proto-brutal death metal sound that you'd hear in like Suffocation, Baphomet, and again, like Dying Fetus. And it's mixed up really well. Again, like the alternating riffs between like thrashier riffs to tremolos to brutal chugging. Everything on this album is paced to just keep the energy up. Honestly, I really hope this band makes it to our shores, because I would love to hear this live. If you're a big fan of just like flat out old school death metal, Cannibal Corpse, Monstrosity, any of the bands that we're bringing up here, trust me, check this out.
Yeah, I got to agree with Nick here. I got to go with 4 out of 5. This was a very fun trip down memory lane, revisiting a lot of early death metal sounds and tropes and things of that nature, but done uniquely and creatively in their own quick, intense way. Great riffs, great dynamics, great production, high energy, entertaining, good leads. 4 out of 5. Give it to me, baby. I would listen to this, and I am going to listen to this. And you know, when you review a lot of stuff, there isn't always time, usually, sometimes to repeat a lot of stuff, but you find ones that you enjoy along the way, and this is definitely one that I'll be listening to again.
Yeah, dude, this kind of brings me back to like just buying albums because they had the Roadrunner stamp on the back. Man, back when you could trust that. Ugh, that was some time ago. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also now have memberships. They are only 99 cents, and we are going to start doing our members-only live streams, which is our only perk we have so far. We're going to be doing that Thanksgiving night when you're all bloated, full of turkey and stuffing and booze, maybe a little bit of weed.
Some of us more than others.
But yeah, we're going to hang out. We have a post up. You know, if you guys want to ask us like particular questions in terms of like themes and such, you know, it's your dime. This is what you guys have been paying for. So we want to talk about what you want to talk about. And generally, you can ask us anything and we will more than likely give you a very honest, if not very weird answer. But yeah, if you're interested in joining, there is a join button down below. We also still have thrallsmetal.com with our t-shirts and hats, and that is linked down below in the video description.
And I will not be held liable for the crazy things I may or may not say. But realistically, the last thing we want to do is thank you, the viewer. We would not be anything without you guys hanging out with us and watching our videos and being a part of our community, man. So from the bottom of our cold, dead, blackened hearts, we thank you very much, man. We appreciate you more than you know, and we'll always appreciate you. So good on you guys for being you.
Yeah, you guys have definitely suffered through a lot with us, mostly because we just keep cracking dick jokes and stuff. But yeah, thank you guys. You guys as a rule, more content coming. And with that, I'm going to thank you one more time because of how awesome you are, and we will catch you later.